A very warm welcome to the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show. And today's show is The Natural Zotto Zen Buddhism Way. Cool, what a title that is, which captures the life of a seasoned business strategist specializing in acquisitions, market expansion, and financial education for digital and service based businesses globally. With experience across startups and established enterprises, Matt Ambrose has also trained teams in strategic planning, management, frameworks, and operational efficiency. Yes, folks, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome on the show Matt Ambrose. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thank you, Lord Russell. It's an absolute honor to actually spend some time with you today.
Absolutely. The honour's all mine, I can assure you. I've got a great script to get through. And as always, let's start at the very beginning, Matt. You were born and lived your young life from the island of Jersey, just south of the UK, in terms of the south coast of the UK, that is. A beautiful British island just off the French coast in the Atlantic Ocean. So how was your childhood in Jersey, and when did you spread your wings and leave Jersey to develop your adult life?
I was very fortunate to be born on Jersey. My parents are originally
Mm,
from Liverpool. They had the opportunity. My father was a doctor, and my mother was a science teacher for cancer.
wow.
So back in the 1980s, the 1970s, there were opportunities for doctors and science teachers in Jersey with high-profile schools and medical clinics. So my father and my mother both moved over. Well,
Mm.
they had my brother at the time who was older than me, and I have two other sisters. So me and my sisters were both born on the island, but my brother was born in the UK. So they set up a really, really nice location. I was very fortunate to be brought up in a very nice house, 4 bedroom, 2 bathroom, kind of. My parents just did very, very well, and they were very grateful for that. So I was very fortunate to be educated in a private school, De La Salle College for boys, which is a Catholic school. So
Mm.
I can't really complain about that. Um, Unfortunately, when I was 8 years old, my mother found a lump and she was diagnosed with breast cancer. Within the space of a year, unfortunately, the cancer had overtaken and she passed. At that time, I was sent over back to the UK to go and live with my godparents. As
Mm.
I'm sure you can imagine, if you have 4 children and your mother is sick, it's a little bit tricky to handle with businesses and work and everything else at the same time. Because at the time, my father owned his own private medical clinic and was running multiple other businesses at the same time. So at that time, it was really, really difficult for me. But now looking back, I'm in my mid 40s and I see why it was done. So
Yes,
it was
yes, you do.
traumatic for me, of course. However, when you get older, you understand how life works. And
Absolutely
sometimes,
right. And it is a beautiful island, Jersey, as well. I had the luxury of working there a little while ago, well, a few years ago now. A fantastic place. Absolutely amazing place to visit, work in, really relaxed and chilled. Beautiful upbringing it must have been when you were younger on a really nice sun-drenched island. Wonderful place. And
yeah,
not far
it
from
was great.
France.
Yeah, I can't complain. We actually had a very small home in France. We actually
Nice.
my father called it the monster home, which was quite famous. It's like a cabin in the forest, like in a
Oh,
movie, which had
wonderful.
a rifle range in the back garden. So yeah, times were fun.
No, sounds like a wonderful time. Now, I just mentioned, of course, about your the sad loss of your mother, and you sadly lost both of your parents, I understand, too, when you were just aged 15. This is a real trauma that not many people can resonate with, I can assure you. But of course, I've lost both of my parents too, but not at the same time. So I do understand the feelings and the struggles. You also struggled with an addiction to alcohol and other substances. So, Matt, please tell us more at this stage, and of a significant part of your early life experiences, and a real challenge too. It's a massive challenge, isn't it?
So yeah, as I say, I was very fortunate to be brought up in a quite a wealthy family. So
Mm,
we did have money, and my father had business interests in a hotel and resort with dive center in on the island of Cyprus
wow.
in Greece. Now, the laws there were a little bit open and free, to say the least. So, from an early age, I had the access to alcohol,
Mm,
and obviously, behind everybody else's back in closed doors, I would basically take alcohol. So, alcohol was very accessible at a young age, so I would drink, and not a lot of people knew about it. You could buy like small bottles of vodka from the local shop for like
Mm.
20 pence. So I
Wow.
behind all the back doors, I kind of started that early. Then from the age of 12 to 14, my father was having some, well, there were difficulties in the family, so my father suggested that I go live with another family. So I did. So I spent 2 years of that time living with another family and having summers in Cyprus and various other holidays in France. Now, when between the age of like 14 and 15, I believe my father went on a vacation and he caught some kind of virus. By the
Mm.
time he came back to Jersey, within weeks, he was actually in hospital in a coma on life support.
Shocking.
Now, at that time, I didn't have a good time when my mother died, so I made the personal decision I wasn't going to leave my father's bedside when
Mm.
he got sick. Now, later on, I realized it wasn't the best idea that I'd ever had in my life. But you can
Okay.
imagine as a 15-year-old, I remember being there and I was on the phone with the family who I was living with saying, it doesn't look good. We're not sure if he's going to pull through. The doctors can't do any more. And then literally within a couple of hours, I heard the beep and that was it. So it was just me and my brother at the time at my
Horrible.
father's bed while he went. And that really hit me hard.
Yes, I can imagine. Both parents, within moments of each other, really, and a tender age of 15 too. That's a real trauma, isn't it? A total trauma in life. Terrible thing to happen to anybody.
Yeah,
But anyway,
it did take a toll on me, that's for sure, at that age.
yeah, they would do. But you left school at 15 and started your first job at a local supermarket, training in all departments for a position in stock management. You could say life was quite tricky, as we've just sort of gone through a few things there in your life, and you struggled with depression and anxiety, which I can fully understand. As you and your family dissolved your parents' assets, tough times indeed, Matt, weren't they? Really tough times. Dissolving your parents' assets as well, along with your family, your brother, must have been a trauma in itself too.
Yeah, it was quite traumatic because you can imagine, well, I'm 15 and my one of my sisters is older than me, one of my sisters younger, and an
Mm,
older brother now. We were very fortunate that we owned the house. So we had a house to live in. So that
yes.
was taken care of. Monies were inherited. So I never really had to kind of like work in those days. I was okay. However, I still worked, but I was still like drinking heavily. And for me, it was
Mm,
even working with the supermarket, it was a very party atmosphere. Like
mm.
we would have a lot of events with the party, and it was quite funny actually because I went and took my exams at school, my GCSEs back in the day. Now, it was funny because I went to the school to go and get my results, and my headmaster, who was a priest at the time, said to me, "Master Ambrose." I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Do you have a job?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I have a job." He said, "I suggest maybe don't lose it," because my grades were abolishing, you could imagine. And
I can.
they basically, the school turned around and said they offered me a 2-year extension and said, "We would like to offer you a suggestion to continue," because, well, another story that happened, well, during the time of, when I was taking my exams,
Mm.
I had some homework that was given to me by, one of the brothers from the school, and I wrote some, profanities on it, and I forgot to rub off the profanities. It was in pencil,
Oh,
and it was
dear,
handed
dear.
into the head brother of the school, and, obviously, I nearly got expelled. They wanted to
Mm,
expel me immediately, and,
mm.
I was very fortunate at the time that a best friend of my mother's, she was the headmistress of the junior school, like the infant school, and I didn't know that behind my back in closed doors, that family were pleading with like the the brotherhood to say, listen, he's not in of good manner right now. I get it. We understand it. It's totally against. You should be immediately expelled. It's not acceptable at all. But luckily, I actually found this out later. I found this out in my like late 20s about it because I'd kind of got over it. But I had to write. Obviously, I had to write an apology letter to the
Yes.
brotherhood to say that it had been written in pencil, so it didn't mean anything. If I'd meant it, I would have wrote it in ink. But back then, I was a very emotional child, and the whole world was against me, and I was like, I don't care. You know what I mean? I was in that space, so yeah, very very close to completely ruining my life, if you know what I mean, academic wise, because it's not the best idea.
No, it's not at such an early age as well. And of course, going back in the day, I can remember, schools, teachers, people generally didn't really care that you'd lost parents. It was a case of, for God's sake, boy, pull your socks up and get on with life. And that was a sad indictment of what went on in those days, wasn't it? And you just nodded. You obviously suffered with that penance as well from people. It's a sad moment. It really is. And at that age, you don't care, do you? Really, you just see things for what they are. You can't see the future. It's sad, really sad. But you battled on. And of course, you were living in Jersey. I mean, let's be honest. When I was working in Jersey, it was known as an island of alcoholics, a party isle. And Guernsey's
Yeah,
the same too. And most people
yeah,
who live there tend to travel around island to island on a boat rather than using vehicles because they're all usually quite intoxicated. So a fun place. So you probably grew up in a wrong island, really, from that respect. But, but you had all the beauty of Jersey as well, which obviously is fantastic. But yeah, what a life.
I did have access to like, well, back in the day, we did have a lot of underage clubs, so underage
Ah,
nightclubs where they would help, and you
yes.
can imagine as teenage boys and teenage girls between the ages of 15 and 18, we did sneak in alcohol into these clubs. So you would
Yeah.
have a lot of, they were quite loose. Like, as you said, it was like the joke was 70,000 alcoholics clinging to a rock.
Absolutely. That's a good way of putting it, actually. That's well said. That is true. Very true about Jersey. Yeah, absolutely. And then at the age of 20, you spent 18 months in Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji working in hostels in exchange for accommodation and food. You also volunteered at a local cattle ranch during this time too. You could say you were finding your feet in life at this stage. I mean, they're amazing countries to visit, aren't they? And to go there alone and do what you were doing there at that time is a huge piece of your life that you're evolving into. It maketh the man, doesn't it? Travel. Let's be honest. So
Yeah, it
tell
was
us
a
more
very
about those
incredible
days.
experience. Yes. Yeah. I had the opportunity to travel around all of Australia. I did obviously party a lot, and
Mm,
uh, it wasn't the best for my alcoholic issues because I was like, Australian culture is very, very similar to British culture, as you
yes,
might be aware, where everything's a put on the shrimp on the barbie and get the beers rolling. So it was,
absolutely.
and obviously I was living and working in hostels, and the party hostel, like there was actually a bar in in the basement of the hostel, and alcohol was kind of freely flowing. So pretty much drinking every single night there, and you'd have like your late nights of alcoholism till 3, 4, 5 in the morning, and then back to work at 7. So, yeah, very interesting times back then.
Yeah, little sleep, lots of parties, but that's the Australian way too, isn't it? From Jersey to Australia, you're following the same pattern, really, aren't you? To be honest, but you must have found. I mean, you went to obviously Fiji as well and New Zealand. I mean, how did you find Fiji and New Zealand? Slightly different, I guess, to Australia.
Yeah, Fiji was actually really, really incredible. We did a lot of island hopping. We
Mm,
we
wonderful.
managed to find a local guide the first day we arrived in Nadi, and we visited Beachcomber Island, which is a very, very famous island from The Beach, from the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Wonderful.
We also visited Manu Island, which is a very traditional tribal island. We visited Robinson Crusoe Island, which was
Oh,
incredible, where you had like bucket showers and these types of things. It was owned by an Australian guy who'd gone there and he'd got the lease on the island and he converted it into like Friday. They had the parrots and everything there.
mm,
It was really, really incredible. We had the opportunity to have a ride in a seaplane, which was the first time I'd ever been in a seaplane before, because
good
it was actually
experience.
easier to travel sometimes by seaplane than it was by longtail,
Mm,
and it
absolutely.
was
What an
super low
interesting
cost.
time. Oh, well, I'm sure it was low cost. But interesting enough, you mentioned a tribal island. I mean, that would be an interest to me as well. That culture of a tribal island must be fantastic. No cannibals, I hope. But that must have been an experience going there. Wow.
It no cannibals, but we did actually end up on, Castaway Island
Oh,
from the
okay.
Tom Hanks movie. We did, like, a day trip there. It's actually protected. You can't take
Mm,
anything on it. You can only literally you can't even, like, take food on the island. You can go there and snorkel, but it's very protected to keep the kind of the ecosystem alive. So it was,
yes.
we had, like, a month there of island hopping, which was really, really great. I did actually, I kind of had a really big fond to the kava, which is like a kind of, it's from
Mm.
the cocoa the cocoa plant. So it does contain certain narcotics inside of it, and the Fiji rum, which is like 80% proof. And it was actually funny because I brought back we flew back to the UK from New Zealand, so we flew like via Fiji, New Zealand, and New Zealand back to the Fiji. And
Yes.
I got stopped in customs, and I had this bottle of rum, and obviously they're not licensed. And they kind of pulled me aside saying, "Where do you get this?" I've just been to Fiji and I bought it from a local shop. I actually bought it from the airport duty free, but
Mm.
they tried to take it off me because it was like 80% proof. And obviously with UK laws, there are certain
Yes.
classifications of spirits that can't be brought into the country.
So how did you get away with it? Did you get to keep the bottle in the end, Matt, or did they
I
allow you to
managed
take
to
it
actually
through?
convince them to let me keep it.
Good.
And yeah, so I got it back to Jersey, but I ended up having a party. And yeah, it was kind of a few me and my friends cleaned it off, and let's just say we weren't feeling too good for like
The
a week
following
later.
day.
Imagine like pure.
Absolutely. 80% rum, wonderful. Of course, I can imagine it must have smelled absolutely gorgeous as well, and probably had a cork in it as well, didn't it, I guess? So you pull the cork out, and you can smell the rum, but also you can smell all the sugar cane as well. It's a really nice texture, isn't it? The whole experience with rum is gorgeous. I did it myself in the Caribbean a few times, but that must have been an experience. It must have been. What a great bottle of rum to have.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
I later found a supplier that was able to get it. It was a luxury supplier in Jersey actually that could import
Mm.
the rum. So I actually got I got a bottle, and I got a bottle of Bundaberg rum
Oh, wow.
from Australia also, which is quite potent also. But it was like £50 for the bottle, so it's not the most cheapest, but
But, that's life, isn't it? And I'm sure the bottle you bought in Fiji wasn't £50. Probably a nice easy number to contend with, really. Very light on the pocket, I'm sure. But,
yeah, I think it
a
was about
cracking bottle.
£3, I think.
That's a big difference,
Like
isn't it, Matt?
more than
Wonderful.
100 times less.
Yes. That's incredible. Oh, what a great story. And of course, then between the ages of 19 and 27, you worked in the construction and electrical trade, focusing on sales and stock management. During this time, you purchased a free level property and converted it into five rental units to generate passive income. What a great idea. Your first steps as a business entrepreneur in retrospect, an interesting turn of luck and good judgment, Matt, wasn't it that? How did that all work
Yes,
out?
well, I was very fortunate that before purchasing that property, I had helped a number of friends
Yes.
do a similar thing. I hadn't put any financial backing into my friends' ones, of course, but
Mm,
I'd helped develop more than 15 to 20 properties in Cyprus, in France, and in the UK. So it was like when
mm,
this came up, it was actually a friend of mine's brother-in-law was moving to Australia actually, and they had a property they just wanted to offload. So me and a friend of mine that I'd known for like 15 years, I said, well,
Yeah.
I've got cash. If you get yours on debt, we can buy this and we can make a profit. We can invest in it and hold it. And so yeah, it was a it was a really good experience. However, we there was one problem that we made. We didn't have what's called a head of agreement. So a heads of agreement means that both parties agree on certain milestones and stages with regarding finances, regarding operations management. And because we didn't have that, my business partner at the time, we we, we had a few kind of conflicts regarding money because we were earning good money. And in 2016, we ended up having to sell the property because they wanted
Mm.
other things I did, and monies were going missing. Legally, he had the right to. So we did go to court, and then the lawyers basically in the court said, "Well, you guys, you only own it. You own it together on paper, but you don't have anything, any agreements set out with regards to who does what. So technically, he didn't break the law. It was unmorally correct, but yeah, and it ended up in quite a bitter battle. And well, we're no longer speaking anymore. But I mean, kind of I understand his side of it. I get it. At the end of the day, we didn't have any agreements, so he didn't break any laws. Like they called it pilfering.
Yes,
So in English terms, I believe pilfering means taking without the owner's consent, but you
correct.
are the so you're pilfering from your own
Yes.
stock.
Interesting take, isn't it? Interesting take. But yeah, so getting the legalities right is so important, isn't it? As you discovered here, having the right papers, the right documents in place to protect yourself and your partner um, is clearly you know, you just have to get these things right from the beginning, don't you? Which you didn't do, which is which came back and bit you later on in life. But you know, you learn from these experiences and onwards and upwards, I guess. So how did it all work out in reality? Did you
So
get
in
documents
reality, I
signed
lost
and done?
everything.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
I lost everything because my money was cash and his was debt,
Okay,
and sometimes debt can be protected.
it can be. Yeah, you're right. So another bad experience, but you know, nonetheless, some good experiences come out of all these things. You've had over 15 years experience in the field of equity and real estate, as we know. Um, you have been involved also in multiple real estate projects, not just in the UK, but in Europe, Asia, the US, and Latin America too. You might say a very diverse real estate empire, Matt. So tell us more about how that stuff came about from the experience you've just had and said about with the errors and mistakes you made there.
So basically, a few people approached me because we we sold the property I had in Jersey in 2016, and a lot
Yes.
of people had approached me that had like diving centers or hotels or those kind of
Mm.
opportunities. So I would always advise them. And long story short, well, when I bought the property like in 2008, and at that time I was going through rehab for alcohol and drugs. I was on actually I went away to France with a friend of mine, and I overdosed and I attempted to take my life.
Oof. Oh
I
dear.
with regards to the Soto Zen Buddhist, I actually did a rehab center with Soto Zen Buddhist like a monk. So I did
Yes.
it like a non-traditional way of not going down like medical psychology, but the kind of more spiritual way.
Yeah,
So
which is the
after a
title of
year,
this
that was
show, of course. You know, so that's great, isn't it?
exactly. So obviously during these times, I was still doing deals with people and saying, "Hi,
Mm.
um, you've got this opportunity. It's losing money. I can help you." So I'd go in, check out, look into their finances and the operations, and I would
Mm.
point out little things that maybe might help. I didn't really want to. I don't like telling people what to do. It's like just kind of offering solutions, saying, "Hi, you might want to try this. It could work." There's no guarantee because nothing is guaranteed in life, but just giving gentle suggestions and saying, "I'm happy to do it also." And if that comes to fruition, then we can split a win-win. So it kind of quite a few opportunities came up to me, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, let me have a look, and I'll help you out in whatever way I can."
Perfect. That sounds like a good way forward. And also, interestingly, you also acted as a key principal in the sale of a rare World War II philatelic collection, reaching 120,000 US dollars at a world premier auction house in London. Now, I've got to say, this does pique my interest, man. I have to say. So, please tell us and reveal all about this as well. That's a really interesting uh, relic to get involved with, isn't it? But as a principal in the sale, that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it did actually belong to my family, and it had been in
Okay.
a vault for 25 years now.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
it'd been in a vault for 25 years, and it was a mess. Now, uh, it took me 5 months to sort it out. So
Mm,
I spent 5 months going through it. I did kinda grow up with it as a child. However, I literally used a lot of Google to kind of work out how things was going. Now, I was very
yeah,
fortunate that, a family friend knew, uh, an owner or a member of this very high-end, auction house in London, and they managed to get me in contact with this gentleman who was actually involved in part of the sale when a member of my family had purchased it back then. And when he came over, they flew over for like for the day, and he looked at it and he said, "Who sorted this out?" And I said, "I did it." He goes, "How long did it take you?" And I said, "5 months." He goes, "I don't know how you did it, but you've categorized it in exactly what it's meant to be." And
fantastic.
it was valued at $1 million. So basically, it was a $1 million stock hold. However,
Mm,
as you might be aware with Philatel, you can't just sell a stock hold of Philatel. It's not possible. You'll flood the
mm,
market and you'll just destroy it for everybody else. So unfortunately, we couldn't get the 1 million because it would take time. It would take multiple years of things
yes.
being released slowly so that you get the correct value. So I'm not sure who purchased it, but I'm pretty sure they made 10 times more than what we did. But it's at that time I'd already spent 5 months, and I was like, well, I don't really want to spend the next 5 to 10 years of my life going through this.
Mm,
These guys are the real deal. They know, and they managed to like gently offload it to the right people very, very quickly. But it was extremely challenging, extremely stressful because it brought up back a lot of emotion going through that, like from what I'd seen from my childhood. But
yeah,
once
family
I'd done it,
heirloom,
I
isn't
was
it?
like, sorry,
It's a family heirloom, so a lot of emotions.
yes, of course, and for me also like completing, it, I was like, I've just completed $1 million
Mm,
exit in 5 months, and
yeah.
I was in tears at the end of it. I was like, I've just completed $1 million exit in 5 months. And from like nothing, like from very little experience and education to boom.
Mm,
And quite a few people came up to me saying, whoa. And yeah, it was stressful, but um everything like when it went through the sale, they all the documents they were like, that's quite impressive. I'm like, well, I'd always known kind of how to do it, but when you actually do it yourself and go through everything and
yeah.
yeah, it was a very, very rewarding experience at the end of it. Maybe not so much financially, like totally because I didn't get all the
Mm,
money, but to be able to do that and have that as a proof of concept to do it like pretty much alone was crazy. Yeah.
yeah, another string to your bow from a business perspective, isn't it? Really, another learning curve. Something you can say you've done, you've achieved. Although not getting the money, the financial rewards that it was probably worth. But as you say, to spend the next 10 years gradually releasing these products into the market to get the market worth would have been quite time consuming. And, that would have been taking out a lot of your time as you experienced 5 months already. You knew the hard work that was involved. But sometimes it's not always about the money, is it? But $1 million, well, that does sound real, but spread over 10 years, that's probably make £100,000 of dollars a year anyway, couldn't you? So that's, you did the right thing, I guess, in the end.
Yeah, it's
Fantastic
just like
opportunity.
yeah. I had other things going, like, at the time, I was a diving
Mm,
instructor in Asia, and I was
yes.
like to me, it wasn't, as you said, it wasn't about the money. It was just getting it done and then getting back to my life at the end of the day. I was like,
Correct.
um, well, at that time, we had a death in my family. My brother sadly passed away
Oh,
from alcohol, and
oh
I
dear.
was like, I just didn't want to be there. I was like, I actually, after the exit had been done, and
Mm,
after the funeral of my brother had passed, I actually, I checked myself back into a rehab center in a monastery in the north of Thailand because I didn't know where I was going. I thought I was gonna start drinking again. It hit me like a year later, and, I ended up
mm.
checking into a monastery, and within a few hours, the monks basically said to me, "Brother, you don't belong here, man. You don't
Huh,
belong here. We think you need to leave." Like, and it's hilarious when you hear that coming from a monk telling you
yes.
that you don't belong here, man. You didn't drink, kinda, come on. You've got it. Yeah. It's just because when I got there, I saw like real people with real problems that I'd had previously, and they're like, "Go,
Yes.
go. You know what's going on. Just kinda, yeah,
Well, that was good for the
just go."
monks to say that, wasn't it? They could see, they could read you, could see you, feel where you were, and they gave you an honest opinion. And that's what you expect from monks or in Thailand, isn't it? It's fantastic, a good achievement. So you knew you were okay. The monks told you
I
so,
was very
and that's
grateful.
wonderful. Wonderful about Buddhism. The Buddhism way of life is an incredible way of life, isn't it? Which I know you understand, and I understand, and I like the Buddhism. I like Buddhism. I like their way of life. It's fantastic. Having spent quite a lot of time in Thailand myself in recent years, I've really become quite partial to that side of life because it's not a religion. It's a way of life, isn't it? That's the difference with Buddhism, which I take to. It's fantastic. Then in 2020, you decided to move to Mexico. Interesting, as I also moved to Mexico in January 2020 as well. I spent 2 years there. You started services as a business coach, initially helping entrepreneurs and business owners to understand the impact of alcohol on their lives, guiding them towards a more balanced and effective lifestyle to improve focus and performance in their businesses. So a true example of real experience and giving advice to others. And how did this all turn out, Matt? Working in Mexico during the COVID pandemic, remember as well, delivering a powerful coaching course on of this nature in itself is extremely commendable, isn't it? What a thing to do. Powerful.
So, during the pandemia, so originally joining the pandemia, we were having the pandemia and we were having Brexit at the same time.
We were, yes, that's true.
So things got a little bit tricky for us Brits traveling around the
Yeah,
world.
tell me about it.
So I was originally I had to go back to the UK to get new passports, new credit cards because all the rules had changed for travel.
Yeah.
The pandemia started. I um I ran back to Thailand because I was like, well, if I'm gonna get stuck, I'd rather get stuck on a beach. That didn't really turn out to plan because
Mm.
within 8 weeks my visa got revoked because of Brexit. Because all the visas, they were like, this is crazy. So I ended
Yes.
up back in the UK in Bath, staying at a friend's house where the UK was in full blown lockdown. You couldn't do anything. You could go to the
Horrible.
supermarket for 1 hour a week and get your supplies, which obviously is not the best mental for anybody. You know what I mean? The best like situation. So I was um I was in a friend of mine's house in Bath, and I got introduced to a group called Ecology. Now, ecology is the modern form of psychology and science, and it's run by a guy called Kane Ramsey. Now, Kane Ramsey is a former British military soldier
Right.
who I believe he was in Iraq and Afghanistan, but don't quote me on that. But I believe he served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he was also a former alcoholic. Now, he'd started ecology, and he became a fully trained neuralistic programming instructor, cognitive behavior, life coach, business coach. So I started enrolling in Kane's and Ecology's courses.
Mm.
Then I actually saw the UK was getting a little bit messy, but I saw that Portugal had its doors open if you could
Yes.
prove that you had a European passport or European birth certificate. Now, I had a European birth certificate because I'm born on Jersey.
Yeah.
So Jersey at the time was a European colony because it was French, British, stroke German from World War II. As we know, Germany, it was occupied by Germany via Adolf, but not actually, he never stepped foot. Anyway, long story short, I flew to Portugal. I ended up getting Portuguese residency there. And then for the next 5 months, I just studied all the modalities of psychology. And I managed to finish like 3 or 4 of them in record time. I literally just locked myself in an apartment, just studied, studied, studied. And
Yes,
then
interesting.
a week before Christmas 2020, my landlady called me saying, "Matt, Europe is going into lockdown for part 2. You need to pay X, Y, and Z if you want to stay in the apartment." So I said, 1 minute. I'd heard a lot of people have been flying to Mexico, and I found the very last flight out of Europe, from Amsterdam on Christmas Day. So
Okay.
Matt bought a ticket and Matt went. Matt arrived in Mexico, and then the whole world was
Yes.
like, very
Right.
fortunately, Mexico hadn't had too many problems.
No, exactly. I mean, I moved to Mexico in January 2020. But I had an event in Ipswich at the Corn Exchange to come back to. I put on the Legends of Snooker with Steve Davis and Jimmy White, John Virgo, and Michaela Tabb, the famous referee. So I flew back to the UK with my Mexican girlfriend at the time. Spent a couple of weeks here. Did the exhibition, snooker exhibition in Ipswich, and then within days flew back to Mexico City. And on landing in Mexico City, I think maybe 2 weeks later, suddenly got the call from my children, one of my daughters. "The UK's gone into lockdown, Dad." I said, "Well, you won't be seeing me coming back then. I'm staying here." And that was it. I was in Mexico, got out for that period of time, and I did come back to the UK on one occasion, so I had some business to sort out. And someone said, "What are you doing, Russ? You'll never get back out again." I said, "I will. I live in Mexico now." I had the address, everything, they couldn't stop me from leaving. So I then flew back to Mexico City again, and I think this time via Madrid, because there's all sorts of problems going on with flights in Europe at the time. So it was all a bit of a I think the travel then was just all over the place. You probably remember it yourself, Matt, don't you? And going in and out of Mexico was something else. It really was, and lots of trauma, lots of incidents. I even flew back to the UK. Yeah, at that particular time, I flew back to the UK via Miami. And because I've been in Mexico City, the Americans put me in the Mexican containment area whilst they checked me out to see that I was a narco or something. It's absolutely mad. I was out of there within an hour and got my flight back to the UK. But, what you had to go through then as a traveller was something else, as you can probably experience and vouch for too. But there we
Yeah,
are.
I kind of decided that when I got to Mexico, I previously been to Mexico before because I did my
Mm,
scuba dive instructor course on Cozumel,
nice.
and then I had traveled down the Pacific coast via private military yacht, which is another story for later, and various other things. So I got to Playa del Carmen, and anyway, I'd done all these modalities, and I've been to a lot of networking events, and
Yes.
people asking, "What is your story?" I said, "Well, former alcoholic turned scuba diving instructor. Last 2 years of scuba diving instructor was working for the military and all those kind of things." And they're like, so I started doing hosting free alcohol meetups. So people like
Yes.
are having problems with alcohol, so they could just talk. And I ended up signing like 4 clients. However, I never made any money out of it because at the time, I don't know why, but money just didn't kind of work with at the time. I wanted to get paid, but it's very difficult for people to see the value in treatments and these kind of things. And I get why.
Mm,
You know what I mean? A lot of people
mm.
like, well, it can just be when money and these kind of things are in play together. So anyway, I helped 3 people and I'm still in contact with them today. And it was just they told me that I changed their life forever, which I was extremely grateful for being
Nice.
able to accomplish that. And um, I've actually recently been approached by a group in Los Angeles to do another one. So that might be coming soon. Can't really talk too much about it because it's like it's still not been a thing yet, but there might be a thing coming up within the next months that I'm involved in. I did actually. I was living in Playa del Carmen at the time,
Mm,
and then I moved to Mexico City, and I started doing sober dinners. So I had my first ever one. I had 25 people come to, and I was like,
yes.
whoa, which was incredible for my first ever launch. 25 people turned up, and it was kind of like incredible. And then I did a few subsequent meetups, but I wasn't making any money, so I took a step back and then moved back into M&A, basically buying and selling assets.
Absolutely right. And these sober curious dinner events you did, I mean, just put things in perspective. Creating a space for individuals to explore and discuss alcohol-free living in a supportive, community-driven environment. I mean, uh, that's an incredible thing to do. I mean, you say there's no money in it as well, but nonetheless, it's coming back to you now with another event potentially going to be arranged, as you just explained. So these are all wonderful stories and wonderful, you know, drivers in life, aren't they, Matt? Really, they get you somewhere. It's another example of something you've done that actually leads to something in the end, which is what's happening. It's incredible. Um, and but finding the clients. How did you find the clients? Willing clients to attend and be part of this new supportive community. Because a lot of people would tend to shun away, wouldn't they? Really, I can't admit I'm an alcoholic or I've got this problem. But for people to attend, that's good, isn't it? How did you find them?
So I set up a private WhatsApp group, basically,
Yeah,
like, because I originally launched myself as Sober Zen, like the Buddhist version of being sober.
yeah,
That didn't really work. I don't know, maybe because people thought it was a bit too spiritual or religious or something because of the label.
maybe.
Um, like I don't put a label on myself, if you know what I mean.
Mm,
I did like an interview and it was kind of put with the Soto Zen Buddhist monk, and which is fine, but I don't put anything on anybody. Like for me, it's all about karma.
yes,
Do the right, and the right thing will come back to you. There are sometimes things that you need to do that you might not want to do to get to where you need to go to,
correct.
which is fine as long as you're not hurting people. Like as long as you keep things okay, then
Mm,
life is not like black and white. You have to sometimes do things that you don't want to do to get where you need to go. And I'm cool with that. That's just like, I'm not going to preach or anything like that. So, but, yeah, so I had a group, and in the end, we had like 100 people in the group,
wow.
and it kind of, it did work. I kind of deleted the group in the end because it just got a bit too messy. There was actually, there was someone else doing a similar thing, and they were kind of finding it as a competition. And I said, well, let's join up and do it again. And they didn't want to for whatever reason that they were doing it. Like a lot of these kind of things do develop with regards to like ayahuasca and any other kind of treatments. I've done
Yes.
ayahuasca myself. Um, I had an amazing, wonderful experience with it. Um, Kind of cool for me. It helped me. However, I didn't really want to go down that route. I wanted to keep it unrelated to any kind of using of something. Doesn't matter
Yeah, and
what it is.
to so that people listen to the show, what is ayahuasca? Just to explain what ayahuasca is, so people can understand that term.
So ayahuasca is an ancient ceremony. I believe
Yep.
it's originally from Peru in the
Oh,
in the um in the Amazon. I've actually been there. I took a long tail boat and spent a couple of days there. I didn't do it there because there's a chemical called DMT that's inside
mm,
it. Now, um, I'm a former addict and a former alcoholic. I'm not either anymore.
good.
However, um, I know myself and I don't trust myself.
Mm,
So I don't want to go down those roads because if you have tendencies, maybe it can happen. But basically, it's a ceremony where you take the substance, whatever it is they mix it under a controlled condition with a shaman. It can be anywhere they have it in cities, and they take you for an experience of spiritual guidance, which can help relieve trauma.
yeah,
And it's very effective, very, very effective. However, you do need to go and do it with someone who knows what they're doing.
exactly.
It has to be in a controlled environment and people that you trust. I went with a group with a shaman who I knew about 20 people who had been and had a great experience. And I spoke with the guy before and I explained to him, listen, because I've had former problems with heroin, crack, cocaine, lithium, some really, really dangerous, nasty stuff. And I said to him, I know that I'd I'd researched, but I wasn't quite sure. But some of the compounds in it are related. So
Yes.
I basically said to him, "Can you just do me little bits and just watch me?" And I got to a point of a level where I was like, "I'm good. I don't need to go further." So I
Hmm.
kind of understood myself. I was obviously part of ecology anyway, so I've trained in psychological modalities, so I understand how the human brain, mind
Mm.
works and emotions. So I was like, I'm going to go to this level and I'm not going to go. And I'm fortunate that I believe in myself and I know my willpower and where I'm going to go. And I hit a point
Yes.
of lift, like kind of astrogliding. And I was like, my mind and my emotions went, stop. And I basically controlled it and went, I'm not going any higher. And for
Yeah.
me, I had a beautiful, wonderful, loving experience. I got connected with my mother, my father, and my brother, who are both no longer here in this world.
Mm.
So I did feel some I saw some kind of light, whatever you wanna call it, but I
Yes.
experienced that, and, for me, it was very loving, a lot of crying, well, you can actually vomit also. It brings things out
Mm.
and, for me, fully positive, kinda I the only thing I didn't enjoy was the 3 days where you need 3 days of kind of being on your own to reflect now. Um, I don't always like being on my own.
No.
It could be because of the trauma or whatever, but I like to be with people. I do like, obviously, quiet time, but I like to be with people, and the 3 days for me were a little bit awkward, but, I had the shaman by text,
Mm.
and he was guiding me through the 3 days saying, "Brother, we feel that you just need to ride this wave. We're here for you." So, for
Yeah.
me, top thanks for the shaman at the end of the phone saying, "These
Absolutely.
are normal experiences. Write everything down." So I wrote a few novels. I actually wrote a book at the end of it after it of my life story and stuff like that. So it was great to unload. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you found your limits there. And like you, I don't like to spend that sort of time on my own either. That's really not in my culture of my lifestyle. So, um, but it's very Buddhist, isn't it? And that's what a lot of Thais do, and other communities around the world who follow Buddhism. It's the way it is. But yeah, at least you did it. And so you got some good things out of that. You say you managed to connect with your father, your mother, your brother. In a great way, so a lot of harmony, a lot of peace, and happiness that would have come from that. So that's a really, really good thing to have experienced. So congratulations on that. You then started working in sales, getting back to business again now, buying and selling online businesses. And over the past few years, your focus has been on assisting companies with training employees in mindset, communication, and optimizing business processes. So please enlighten us all on how the business approach started. And of course, the success both then and now. You certainly have the
I
experience for it.
I would attend a lot of high net worth events. I'm very fortunate that I attended a lot of events, like over the past 3 years, more than 300. So
Wow.
I kind of managed to build up like my LinkedIn profile went from like 1,000 and it's now at 3,500. However,
Mm.
I managed to connect with the right people, such as personal friends of myself and with Club 51, which is one of the most exclusive clubs in Latin
Oh,
America now. And
spent many a time
we
in Club
both,
51.
yeah, we both know the president personally. And I was actually very fortunate. Well, I was basically helping online services just fine tune everything for either exit or for merger. So helping them to find companies to buy or merger to basically make more profits and that type of
Yes.
thing. So I've helped a few digital companies with regards to Amazon. I've helped some offline businesses also. I've helped people get access to funding. So I'm not funding it myself personally. I have a lot of contacts who are either VC or angel investors, and I'll pass the number and then we'll split a win-win however it comes to. I've actually well, the I was very fortunate that last year I attended an event at Club 51 and a
Mhm.
friend of mine who's a very high-end lawyer from Texas was there. I made an introduction to the president, and then the president invited both me and my friend to the Formula One.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting
Fantastic.
the VIP treatment at the Formula One, which is the most incredible thing I've ever experienced. I've always wanted to go to the Formula One, and I get to go VIP with Club 51 with the president. And I
Yeah.
was like,
The
how good is
Mexican
life?
Grand Prix. It's fantastic. And you're right, because we both know and the president of Club 51 or Piso 51 as it's known in Mexico City, a fantastic business center right on the Reformer, a beautiful part of Mexico City. And yes, it really is an exclusive business club, isn't it, Club 51? Incredible place. I've been fortunate to have many breakfasts there, lunches and dinners, and met some great people too. So wonderful, wonderful place, really is. So yeah, Club 51. What a business centre that was. And you did the extra thing that I didn't do. I didn't get to a Formula One Grand Prix. Oh dear, what a shame. I've missed out on that one, but you never know. One for the future at some point. So I do intend
Yeah,
to come
very
back to
last minute.
Mexico. Yeah,
Very, very
brilliant
last
stuff.
minute.
Well, the other good thing is next year, of course, is the World Cup, which is being held, Football World Cup, which is being held in Mexico, held in the USA and Canada. So Mexico City will see the World Cup. The Azteca will be in play for sure, as I'm sure will Guadalajara as well. So I think I will be returning next year at some point for the World Cup, and I'll bring my uh, journalist card with me as well because I'm a journalist here, official journalist in the UK. So I might bring that along and try and get into a few matches. So excellent stuff. Next year, back to Mexico City. Why not? But beyond the boardroom, Matt, your passion has instilled teamwork, adaptability, and clear communication by leveraging networking skills, which you just kind of mentioned in a way. You've forged with global connections across industries, facilitating partnerships and professional relationships. I mean, please tell us more about your approach here to developing that network, your network. 3,500 people on LinkedIn, it's quite significant. How do you go about
Yes,
it?
well, I'm not shy anyway, and obviously, like,
No, you're
well,
not.
I was a scuba diving instructor for 7 years, so I've always been
Yes.
dealing with people and training people as a diving instructor. Their life is in your hand pretty much. Like scuba diving is kind of safer than playing football with regard to physical injuries. However,
Yes.
you make wrong, like go up too fast or something, you can end up with decompression sickness. So, kind of it's building the confidence in people and kinda going up to them, and, I've been very, very fortunate to meet quite a few ambassadors, such as from
Mm.
Chile, Argentina, Sweden, the Netherlands, France, and yesterday I got to meet, His Majesty's ambassador here in Mexico, which is,
I
like, a
saw that
real
on
honor to
LinkedIn.
actually meet the direct below of His Majesty the King of England, and it was
Yeah.
like yesterday was like, oh my god, and literally I'd kind of seen her anyway, like, online, and there's a new ambassador who's been in for, like, the past 4 months, and I literally just went up to her and said, "Hi, congratulations on everything," because 'cause I'm collaborating with an accelerator from Silicon Valley. Now,
Mm.
they help bring a lot of money, like, millions of dollars from Silicon Valley to Mexico, and they have connections with Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, the big boys and girls of the world, as we call it, the top Fortune
Mm.
4000s.
Yes.
So we provide education and financial knowledge to maybe people who can't afford it, but all levels. Like you never forget the little people, as one of my mentors says, Matt. Whenever you reach the top, never forget the
Yep.
little people because the little people they need helping. You know what I mean? And everybody's equal in life. Doesn't matter who they are. You know what I mean? We all can get there if we give each other a helping hand.
Yes.
So
I agree.
I was discussing this with the ambassador, and we're hopefully going to have a conversation later about this to see how we can help them. And there was one of the top secretaries of the government for Mexico was also there, and like there's well, there's two deals I'm currently working on. One is 2.5 million, and the other one is 150 million US
Mm.
dollars, and we basically I partnered up with a local guy. I run everything from the US. So I have a US entity, which I do with other companies. So I work for a US entity, not for Mexican. So
Yeah.
my business is a US based entity. And one of my partners, basically said, "Well, he just said to me, you have this way of approaching people in a very calm, honest, non-abiding way. So it's like I just go up to them and I don't talk to them about money. I want to know about who they are.
Yes.
And then if there's a possibility for collaborations, let's have a call and see what we can do for a win-win."
Mm,
A lot of people get it wrong and go in saying, "Hi, I'm XXX and I do X, Y." I don't even introduce people to as who I am. I
mhm.
wait for them to ask me, "And who are you?"
Yeah,
So it's
it's
a
a good
bit of
approach.
a reverse psychology. I'm not like, "Hi, I'm Matt Ambrose and I work for," I say, "Hi, I work with X, Y, and Z." And then
Mm,
afterwards I say, "Oh, okay, good. And who are you?" And then I'd say my name after because it's not necessary to for just for me, in my experience, it's a softer manner to not introduce yourself as who you are. Find more about them, give them more value, then ask them what they want. Like,
mm,
what do they need? Like, how can I serve them instead of I'm selling
absolutely.
this, and this, you know? Yeah.
And of course, when they actually ask you who you are, they're actually now generally interested in wanting to know who you are. So that's great psychology in that approach, isn't it? It works. It's a wonderful way of doing it. It really is. So obviously works too. So let's have a look at what your clients have said, and I quote from the owner of a real estate investment firm. This is what I picked up, my research. Matt has performed fantastically well for my multi-family acquisitions ownership group. He was tasked with a number of items and performed them all beautifully. What a wonderful word! He is especially effective at communication with potential investors, which is coming across, Matt, and guests for the podcast I produce. We plan on continuing to use Matt's services as business dictates. Two very enthusiastic thumbs up for Matt. That's always good to hear. Always good to have a great client review, isn't it, Matt? And you've got many of them, by the way. That's just one.
Yes, that gentleman, he had $70 million worth of real estate in the US.
Wow.
So it was a very privileged to work with, $70 million worth of real estate. And,
I
yeah,
can imagine.
it was very cool. And that led on to a next one, which I was doing, which was, a company that they were doing $1 million profit a year, and that was
Mhm.
within real estate and crypto financing. Like, I don't invest in crypto Bitcoin myself, but I understand the principles of it, and
Mm.
I'm very fortunate to have met. There are two gentlemen, and they have very high levels of Bitcoin, and
Mm.
I was invited to a dinner with them, and they're in the billions. These two gentlemen, and yeah, it's great to be able to meet these kind of people and actually sit there and have dinner for them and kind of
Yes.
have it be on a mutual kind of level, like kind of I'm not at that level yet. However, um, they invite me and say we just like having conversations. It's just a conversation. It's not even about business.
Yeah.
It's about who they are.
That's fantastic, isn't it? I mean, so you've got a great record of doing this, and it shows as well. With the great comments you've had and feedback from various clients. There's many of them. I just chose that one. So, what is next in the world of Matt Ambrose? What are you planning next? What do you think your future holds beyond all the magical stuff you've done today?
So when we close this big 9-figure deal, that will give me resources to go further.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've been approached regarding a kind of a rehab program, which I might be co-founding. So I
Mm.
would like to do that. I want to help more people. I want to serve.
Yes.
I want to show people that there is like a light at the end of the tunnel per se. I know we use that in different forms. We use that with regards to people passing, but it can also be used within light at the end of the tunnel to kind of get here on path to get where you need to go to. So for
Quite
me,
right.
it's to serve and to obviously on the back end get more financially successful so I can get into other doors and then help other people connect with other people and
Mm.
blah 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 because it's not just about me, it's about other
Correct.
people. So I want to help serve, make money for myself, but obviously do good to the world. Kind of let's share it. Let's all win-win how we can at the end of the
Absolutely.
day.
And that's a very good selfless way of thinking, and that's lovely to hear. It really is, Matt, because you are a gentleman. You are a selfless individual. You do think of others quite regularly and all the time, and that's come across, I think, on this show too, with what you've been through and where you are today and what you've provided to people over the time in your young life, and you've still got much to do moving forward. So that's brilliant. And I've just looked at the clock, and we've hit over the hour mark already. Can you believe that? That's incredible.
Time goes fast when you're having fun and there's chemistry in the room at the end of the day. That's what I say.
Absolutely. Absolutely right, and, it's been a great show, hasn't it? It really has. But as always, on the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show, we could generally talk forever, Matt, because there's so much that we could chat about, there really is, about your life, an amazing life operating in a leadership role in the sector of mergers and acquisitions, streamline sales strategies, bolster client relationships, and collaborate with investor due diligence to enhance market position in the online business sector. A truly vibrant business venture and lifestyle. What a great story. It really is. It's been a huge pleasure as always. And as always, the pleasure is all mine. And of course, the show's audience when this podcast is released on the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show and the Lord Russell Baker YouTube channel. Thank you, Matt. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you Matt Ambrose. What a fantastic story that's been. It's a great show, isn't it? Do you mind hanging on for a
Yeah.
brief
Well,
time?
it's
I'll
been
just wrap up.
for me, it's been an absolute pleasure, Lord Russell, for the
Yes.
opportunity to speak with you and to share my insights to other people at the end of the day. Thank you once
Mm.
again, Lord Russell. I really appreciate this. Thank you kindly.
It's an absolute pleasure. And hang on, we'll have a quick chat afterwards. I'll just wrap up because I'll introduce the next show. The next episode on the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show is a tribute to Ray Wilkins, also known as Ray Butch Wilkins, where my special guest will be Ross Wilkins, who is the son of Ray Wilkins. Ray, of course, is a truly celebrated football player and gentleman playing for Chelsea, Manchester United, AC Milan, Queen's Park Rangers, Rangers in Scotland, and of course, the England national team with over 84 caps, playing in UEFA Euro 1990 and the 1992 competitions and the 1986 FIFA World Cup, which actually was in Mexico, wasn't it, Matt? You know, absolutely wonderful. Many games there played in Mexico City. Superb. So another exciting show to look forward to on the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show, available on, of course, on all podcast media platforms and the Lord Russell Baker YouTube TV channel. And of course, I'm looking forward to seeing you all on the inside. So until then, is au revoir from him and au revoir from me.